All right, perfect. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I wasn't sure if it was my side or your side.
No, my phone froze. This is the second time, so I don't know what happens. I don't know why it caused that, but I'm sorry about that. So I'm glad that
Oh,
my
no, it's all
comment
right.
went through on the other side. So
Yeah, I figured one of us froze and it would sort itself
yeah.
out.
No, so as people are trickling back in, I'm gonna have you just give us an idea of what you were speaking of before. You were just finishing up telling us about I believe the content warning, right? And
Yes,
how
yeah.
yeah. So we can get
Yeah,
right back
basically,
into that. Yeah.
yeah, basically I was saying how it's like the content warning, it might have hindered some of my audience, or, prevented some people from potentially picking it up. I remember I sent out some review requests and they're like, I'm going to have to pass because of the content warning, whatever. But the thing is, we have ratings for movies. So why
Hmm.
don't we have a rating system for books as well? Just as a heads up, hey, this book might not be suitable for someone or whatever. And maybe if we normalize that more, it wouldn't be as big an issue. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think a rating system for books is not necessarily a bad thing. Like you said, I mean, we have
Yeah.
them for movies and games. Why not books?
Yeah, because my book is like in this weird area where I would probably say it's for six. It's not rated R. I'd say it's for like 16 up ish.
Hmm.
So it's like older young adult can read it. Like if I was in high school, I'd be able. Like it wouldn't bother me if I was a high school student thinking of how I was in high school. But other high school students might be bothered by it. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, can you talk a little bit more about your writing style? Where do you write typically, and when, and for how long?
yeah, I wish I could say I have a really good answer for that. I'm actually kind of like a real like I'll write. I can write like anywhere. Like I'll I've been known to at like the gym, I'll be like on the incumbent cycle or something. I'll be on my phone working on my writing or something like that if the idea is there. And so I don't really have a schedule. I don't really have a set up time like to do it. It's just whenever I feel comfortable with. Typically, I write in the evenings after I've finished work and everything. It's been kind of weird lately with COVID and quarantine and everything because
Hmm.
I'm working from home. So it's like, oh, I can write on my lunch break or work slow. Let me pull out my laptop and put it to the side here and work well because it's just a matter of what's going on with that. And I don't mind it. I've actually, it's, given me time to work on things and also read a lot more too.
Yeah, which is great. I see that you're really reading quite a lot, actually. I'd like to
Yeah.
transition into that. You're doing a lot of reading of indie authors, other indie
Yes.
authors, and sharing your thoughts, your ratings, and also a whole what is it, the advent calendar almost of indie
Yeah.
authors, right?
Yeah. So this has been the most I've read since I was in like high school.
Yeah.
And, right. So, but yeah, I read a lot in high school that I stopped, because college happens, life happens, whatever.
Yeah.
And this past year with COVID, I just started reading more because part of it with me was this mentality of I'm asking people to go out and review my book. Maybe I should read books as well and review them.
Yeah.
And it's just like give what you take sort of thing. And that's just that's just something for me personally. I don't expect every indie author to ever do that because I'm a fast reader. Some people don't have time. Some people aren't fast readers. Whatever. Or some people just are very picky about what they read. I'm not. I'll read anything. So so it's just kind of this thing where I felt better about myself personally for going out and asking people
Of course.
to
Yeah.
read.
And I have to say, as somebody who, excuse me, as someone who is an indie author who was able to send you an ARC review, an ARC copy for review before
Yeah,
publication, I very much appreciated you
of
doing this
course.
for indie authors. I think it's great to have a real honest review from another writer before you're able to publish. So,
Yeah. But
it's,
also I've discovered is writers can be some of the harshest reviewers too. And I've discovered that with myself as well because it's like you pick up little things or you're like,
oh
and I
yeah.
try to be fair with all, I try to be honest and fair with all my reviews. But I've seen some writers who are reviewers and it's like, wow, they really just nitpicked at everything.
Oh yeah, and I've
So
noticed that. I think it's nice to see that you have such a wide range of reviews as well, and you like to do like 0.25 or 0.75 because you don't like to take off a full star for something
yeah,
necessarily.
and that came out of going back to what happened with that one star review for me. It's like I was thinking like if I was in that person's shoes and I was really thrown off by that ending, that part of that scene towards the end of the book, would
Hmm.
I have gone and rated it 1 star? And I realized for myself, no, I wouldn't have. I would have gone ahead and maybe deducted a star, or if it really bothered me.
Yeah.
Which maybe if I had read it on my own, maybe it would have. I don't know. You don't have fresh eyes the same way.
Oh yeah.
So it's just an idea of just being honest, and because I'm in their shoes. So
Yeah. Now, can you talk a little bit about the inspiration for the Mistkeeper's Apprentice? Where did this idea of a world where stories and magic are illegal come about?
yeah, I don't know where all of it came because something with writing, it's like things just come out of nowhere. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a good idea. I didn't think of that. Like I was writing last night and I was working with something. I'm like, that solves a lot of my problems right with that sentence. But I mean, initially the book was supposed to take place, and this was my high school version when like
Hmm.
Twilight was a big thing and everything. So it was supposed to take place in the real world.
Okay.
And basically, I wrote a ton, like probably 5 books worth of stuff in high school like that. And once I got to college, I was just like, yeah, this isn't working, and scrapped it all. And I can't tell you where I got the idea for the storytelling. I think the storytelling stuff might not have come until draft like 3. And the first book went through a lot of drafts because I was very picky about what I was doing, and
Right.
it kind of came out of the character. And magic being legal, I don't know where that came from either. I wish I could, but I can say that with some of like the setting and stuff like that, where I really got inspired for the setting was I took a trip to the Smoky Mountains a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
And I was there, and I was actually running a race since I run. And I was running a race through the Smoky Mountains. I'm like, this would be.
No, that's great. I like that. I like that your world is drawing inspiration from many places, not just one
Yeah.
idea or one thing. So it's nice. So this is a self-published indie novel, right? So can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about your self-publishing journey and your trials and tribulations, but also your successes that you've had along the way?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot. And I mean, one reason why I chose self-publishing was I want control of the process. I like having control. I have a business mind for it, and have always liked kind of running my own business stuff. In college, for instance, I ran my own knitting business, which has
Hmm.
kind of helped me with this. I don't run that anymore, but gave me an idea of some of the business sense and entrepreneurial aspect to it. And on the other hand, I didn't want to deal with all the letdown of querying because that could be like rejection after rejection, and I didn't have the confidence. Maybe I'll try eventually now that I've kind of dipped my toes into indie publishing.
Hmm.
But I've been happy with it so far. I mean, it's a lot of your own money to start, hiring a cover artist, hiring an editor, um, getting copies of your book, all this stuff, marketing, whatever.
Oh yeah.
And I've had, good and bad things have happened along the way. I mean, people have told me that my launch, the way I did my launch event, which is very similar to how you're doing yours, was actually a great idea. And I think that ended up being beneficial in getting my sales numbers up, getting people aware of my book when I
Yeah.
first published. And I mean, that was a lot to do. I mean, you're doing it right now. It takes a lot of work to get a launch event going and get it
Oh
all
yeah.
together. And so, I mean, I think all that leading up, I did a really good job with. Probably some of the hardest stuff for me was, again, the reviews. And it started with, I mean, initially, early on, I got a 2-star review. And I was like, okay, 2 stars, whatever. And someone told me, I think someone on Instagram said it to me, is that basically getting a negative review like that basically says you've made it. That
Yeah.
they like, not just your friends are reading it. Because, I mean, you see
Right.
some books out there, and I mean, maybe they are really great books because I haven't read them all, but where like everyone gives a 5-star review, so it's like, are these only your friends? But maybe it is a really good book. I don't know. It's just,
Yeah.
but that's what Easley said is you've made it. Basically, you've touched someone who wasn't a friend who gave it a 2-star, and then I had a 1-star, that 1-star review roll in, then someone changed their review. So the reviews have been kind of a headache for me, just because you see your numbers like go down, and I was constantly watching them for a while. I've actually trained myself to not do that anymore, which has been
Oh,
very
good.
good for my mental health. Like I ended up blocking like my personal Goodreads page for myself, so I didn't keep checking, because
Right.
then you would go days of nothing happening, and or going on to like Amazon or whatever, watching your sales graph go up and down. Like I have it
Right.
going like where it's up here, then goes down, then up again. So a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
it's just kind of adjusting your expectations, I feel, and just knowing it's like changing the goalposts.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was like when I hit a certain number of reviews, that was a big success. Sure, it's not like having what like Stephen King might have on one of his books or whatever. It'd be
Right.
great if it was. And I mean, some of it's also just figuring out how to market the book, because once you have your Instagram, like a bunch of people on Instagram, you're talking to the same people over and over again.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand Twitter. I can't seem to break into the Twitter writing community at all.
It's a very different game on Twitter, I think. It's
Yeah.
quite a strange one over there.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can't figure that one out. And then so I'm working on YouTube and possibly doing TikTok or something like that. And then hopefully next year I have one live event finally scheduled, which will be
I saw.
that
Congrats. That's exciting.
yeah, that I'm excited about, because then you get to meet your readers face to face. And then there's a digital event I'm doing next year with an organization. So kind of that's just managing through COVID, I guess, figuring out how that works.
Yeah. So speaking of, and probably the last we'll speak of this, but speaking of reviews and feedback, has there been anything that's really just stuck with you that you're going to take with you through the rest of your writing process moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, one is just having the content warnings and everything. Another thing someone mentioned was a comment on one of my main characters, like on the saying that he's, granted it's a long series, so he's not going to fully develop that he's whiny or whatever, and was annoying. I'm like, all right, well then let me in the next book make it so you can tell he's developing past that.
Yeah.
So it's those little things like, all right, I'm going to pick up, maybe take a moment to breathe the moment with the characters, or take a moment to do this. And I mean, but I've also had a lot of good reviews too. People say that they can picture what's happening, so I'm not going to change my writing style. I know that much.
Yeah.
And I mean, other people have said that they wanted more the moment it happened. So I've had plenty of good reviews. It's just it tends to be those negative reviews stick with you longer, because it's just, I guess, human psychology to an extent.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally get that. I think when somebody critiques you, you tend to remember that a little bit more than when somebody compliments you, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, and I mean, like my fiance, he's said the book is good, and he would probably be my worst critic if he really hated it. So that helps as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, I totally get that. I have my wife is like the ideal reader for me. She reads all YA, and so I know if she thinks it's okay, then I'm probably okay. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like even like he said to me, he's like, I think some of your readers who are giving those negative reviews are going a little too hard on it, which I'm like, but I mean, that's just, reviews are for the readers, not for the writer.
oh yeah,
And
absolutely,
that's
and I
something
love
I
that.
think new writers have to learn, or new authors, they have to learn, hey, don't go after people who, like, if someone leaves a one-star review, just ignore it. Like, you can read it, but just ignore it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and take it with a grain of salt sometimes because they
Yes,
they
yeah.
just may be mean. So
Yeah, or maybe they weren't your ideal audience, whatever.
yeah, but I mean, your book's not going to be for everybody, but it will be for a lot of people. So
Yes,
that's
exactly.
so how was it to publish, your book back in June? What was the emotions you went through, and like what was the launch day like for you?
Yeah, the launch day was really quiet for me, actually, because again, that was still when, like, basically Florida was still kind of in quarantine. We're
Yeah,
we're Florida, we don't do anything. I mean, you're up in New York, right? So
that's where I live. Yeah,
yeah, so you're like complete opposite of what we're doing down here. So, but it's like, so I was just home that day and just kind of relaxing and, waiting to see as people did it. And then like seeing, got like received it. And the thing was, a lot of people, because of, there was a delay in printing during June, a
yep,
lot of people didn't receive a copy of the book until middle of the week. like
Right.
after launch day. So after launch day, I get messages from like my friends. They're like, "I got your book in the mail," or like some people who I just were acquaintances with. They're like, "I can't read it." So that was exciting. So it was kind of like the launch day ended up being a week because people were receiving the book and leaving reviews and everything like that.
Right. Now you did yours. Did you do yours specifically through Amazon? Is it
No,
KDP Select or
no, I did Ingram Spark for mine, which
okay?
that one that's a bit more pricey because you have to pay for your copies and everything. But at the time there was a promotion going on where it was free.
Yep.
So and I chose Ingram Spark because I wanted to be able to kind of reach out to different retailers and stuff like that. So like my book's also available. Like you can actually get it through Walmart eBooks, which is
Yeah.
kind of different. So I mean, and I'll probably do a few there KDP and everything as well. But I wanted to try Ingram Spark because I've heard some good things, and I mean, and I also wanted a hardcover edition, which is
Oh
something
yeah.
that KDP didn't have. So, so yeah, so that was kind of that had a learning curve to it.
Right.
My dog is playing in the background, so if there's noise, that's him.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I went with both KDP and Ingram Spark for mine because I did a paperback through Ingram and KDP print both, and then the ebook through KDP as well as Draft to Digital. So
Okay,
um,
yeah,
the
yeah. There's a whole
distribution
bunch.
is yeah. There's a lot of options out there for self-published authors, and it's quite an array of options
Yeah,
really.
and I'm probably gonna try different ones as well to see which one ends up working the most. I'll probably with this series stay with Ingram, but like I have a short story. I don't know if I'm gonna submit it to an anthology or I might just go try Kindle Unlimited just to test it out with a short story because I don't feel like charging a ton of money for a 10,000 word story. It's
Of course, yeah.
yeah.
Now, speaking of this series, it is a series. So let's talk a little bit about what you're working on right now. Can you give us an idea of your work in
Yeah,
progress and where this is going?
yeah, I just received my beta feedback for A Pool of Peony, which is book 2 in the series. It is going to be a 6 book series, but I have a plan in place where I won't end up like with like some ugly authors like George R. R. Martin, Patrick Roth, but would just take forever. So A Pool of Peony just got out from beta readers, and I'm slated to start with my editor in March because my editor they get very backed up. They're a very popular editor for indie authors. So I
Hmm.
grabbed the first slot available from them. So March, I'm going to be starting to edit with them, which will be ready for a late summer release. So I'm hoping late August, early September for the release
Okay.
of book 2. And that one picks up 6 months after the conclusion of The Mistkeeper's Apprentice. And so far my beta readers have said they like the second book even more, which is always good
Oh,
news.
good.
Because sometimes you get worried when you're doing a second book that's not going to be as good as the first book. So they said it's just more well polished because I've had experience with it and I'm
Hmm.
addressing some of the areas that they were more interested in as well. So, and that one actually, it still has the main 2 point of views, which are Brent and Roe. And then I
Hmm.
have two new point of views as well, which have been interesting kind of navigating how to write those and balancing them. And then
So
I'm
in
also, yeah,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and then I'm also working on writing draft 2 of the third book now. So I kind of have a process going where they're all in motion.
Oh, wow. So you have a number of projects within your head right now.
Yes, and I have 2 side projects, so it's kind of a mess right now.
How do you keep organized and keep all of your thoughts within the same area without losing anything or going crazy?
Yeah, that's a good question. I am an outliner. Like I call myself a plantster, I think is the right word for it,
Hmm.
because I outline, but then sometimes I diverge from it and everything like that. Because I was working on A Pool of Peony while The Mosquito's Apprentice was with my editor. So I got
Okay.
the first book done. No, wait, back it up. I was working on the second chapter of A Pool of Peony when I was with beta readers. So kind of like what I'm
Gotcha.
doing with my third book now. Whenever it's with beta readers, I start the next one.
Hmm.
And it's just kind of I like kind of writing ahead because then I know I like foreshadowing. So
Yeah.
there's things in the Mistkeeper's Apprentice that I was able to foreshadow about A Pool of Peony. And now that I'm working on the third book, which is The Towers of Null, I can foreshadow back into A Pool of Peony when I go and review beta feedback and stuff like that. So I mean, again, this comes down to the outlining, and I know like the main points I want to make at the end of every book. So I know where
Yeah.
each one ends. So as long as I just kind of get there and figure out that nothing's getting too confusing comes
Yeah.
together. And then my two side projects, again, outlining, and one's a short story, so that's not that hard to keep together. So it's,
Is your short story and your other side projects, are those tending toward the fantasy new adult realm as well, or are they totally different?
uh, the side project, the novella, it might be a short novel. I don't know what the length is yet.
Yeah.
Speakeasy, which I've been posting about on here as well. That
Yes.
one
Yeah. Yeah.
is yeah, that one is still probably new adult for language,
Okay.
but it's low. It takes place actually in the same world as Miss Keeper's Apprentice, but not connected really. And it's more low fantasy, so it doesn't feel as much with the high magic and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still new adult-ish because of the age of the characters, but it's really only because of language and some sexual situations, not
Okay.
really because of violence. It's not that big with violence or anything like that. Then the other one, I think it's going to be a YA short story. I don't know for sure yet. It's actually a fairy tale retelling.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if you're willing to share with us or not, but which fairy tale are you retelling?
Yeah, it's not as well known. It's one called One Eyes, Two Eyes, Three Eyes. It's from the Brothers Grimm, and I'm combining it with some elements of Cinderella.
Okay.
So it's kind of it's for an I started it for an anthology. I don't know if I'm going to hit the deadline for the anthology though, so I might just publish it through Kindle Unlimited.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
And Cinderella mixed with Brothers Grimm seems like a very interesting combination. How
Yeah,
did you
so
decide that?
well, I've always liked the story One Eyes, Two Eyes, Three Eyes. It was a story that I remember I think in like second or third grade I had a substitute teacher who would tell it to us, and
Yeah.
she wouldn't even like us like she'd tell us the full story. She wouldn't even like avoid some of the more graphic parts. And then as I was starting to plan it out, I was like, wait, I could pull some elements from Cinderella in with like a ball and stuff like that, and it kind of all fell together in place. So hopefully it'll work out. It's going to be about 10,000 words. I'm 5,000, and I'm taking my time with it. But so
Okay.
that's a bit different from what I've been working on since it'll probably fall in the more YA category.
Yeah. And short stories are a bit of a difference for you, right?
Yes.
As far as word count goes, I feel like Miss Keeper's Apprentice is quite a lengthy novel, right?
Yeah, that's 96,000 words. Yeah,
Okay.
so, and that was actually, I thought my editor was going to cut back when I edited it. They made me add like 6,000 more words.
Oh
So,
wow.
yeah, they're like, no, I want you to add stuff here. I'm like, okay. And like a lot of people have said that it's the right length for the story. Like
Right.
when they've gone through it, they're like, it doesn't feel like it needs to be shorter. It doesn't feel like it needs to be longer. Some people might have thought it needs to be shorter. Because some people, like, I personally am the type of reader who I like details.
Yeah.
Not like Charles Dickens level details.
Right.
But like, I like a chance to get to know the characters, get to know who they are and like what they like doing and stuff like that. But sometimes, sometimes you'll see like when I write a review, it's like it's a good story, but it was too fast for me.
Yeah.
I just don't like stories like that too much. And that's a
Yeah.
very personal preference.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want to get a little bit more of the daily life, right? Of the characters and
Yeah,
get to
or
know
just a
them a little
chance
more.
to, yeah, or just a chance to really see things come into play. Like, there's some stories and sometimes it works really where on page one they were a peasant, on page 15 they're suddenly in an army.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works fine. It's just a matter of the storyteller as well.
Right. Now, I mean, and on that note, I mean, fantasy does tend to be a little more, lengthy. So I feel like I've always heard that if you're going to do fantasy, you should aim for a little bit higher actually than your
Yeah.
standard 55 to 85 or whatever
Yes. Already a pool of peony, so the second book is approximately 125,000.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and the third book is probably going to be the tomb, like the biggest one, just based on what all the events that need to happen.
Hmm.
But I know that's what needs to take place, so I mean, and if I have to cut things, my editor will let me know, my beta readers will let me know, and
Oh yeah.
yeah. But then my novella, or it might be a short novel, that one's going to be about 50,000, so that's short for me, and trying to
Yeah.
figure out where that all is. So it might be actually a short novel in the end. Initially, I was hoping for a novella, but I guess I just can't do that.
No, that's fine. I mean, whatever you need, right, to get the story out there.
Yes, yeah.
So in the fantasy genre, is there a specific author or authors that you to for inspiration, or that you would say are some of your idols in the genre?
Not really. Like since I've read, especially this past year, I've read so much. I mean, I've read a
Hmm.
lot of indie books this year as well, but I mean, Neil Gaiman's always great. Terry Pratchett's always great. The standard ones you always hear about. It's like,
Of
and I mean,
course.
I love Stephen King. I have some mixed feelings in J.K. Rowling right now based on some of the way she's been talking on the internet, but
Yes.
I can't deny that she did influence my writing because
Hmm.
Harry Potter had such a big play on my childhood. But I mean, the real person, and I always say this, and people are always interested in it, is the real person who really had an influence on me writing was actually my grandfather because he
Okay.
was a self-published author.
Oh,
And
really?
that was before Amazon and everything like that. And I'm ashamed to admit I actually haven't read his books yet, but his book is actually on my short list. Like it's one of the next like 5 books I'm going to be reading because he wrote it when I was a kid,
Hmm.
and he wrote historical fiction, so very different genre than what I touch. But I just remember, when I was growing up and everything, like he'd be down, his computer was in the playroom of his house or the basement or whatever, and
Yeah.
I'd be playing and he'd be sitting at his computer working on his stories and everything like that. So he wrote 2 books. I mean, he's passed away at this point.
Mm.
And I would love to one day. There's some issues with, talking to my uncles and mom about this. I would love to republish his book through like KDP or something like that, because he doesn't have an ebook of it.
Okay. Yeah,
And
you'd love to get it out to a bigger audience, right?
yeah, so, and I think he did well like in his local community with the book, but now with the internet and everything, he can be, um, it could possibly get out there again, but I'd have to talk to my uncles and my mom about it beforehand.
Yeah.
But now that I have experience, I could probably do it.
No, that's exciting, and it's just interesting to hear that you have somebody in the family who has been a self-published author that before the time of self-publishing really being as
Yeah.
mainstream as it is now.
Yeah, because I think he did it like through a press that was in his neighborhood or whatever, everything. And then on top of it, my grandmother was an English teacher, so his wife. So it was my mom's side of the family was very big influential part of it. And my mom has read the novel, so it's like it's all together like that.
Oh yeah. Now I have a couple questions from the audience that I got in my story, and I'd love
Okay.
to ask you these. What's your favorite thing about being an author?
Yeah. Hold on one second. Hey, I have sorry. I have
That's
my
okay.
like Christmas and Hanukkah gifts all right here. My dog's trying to chew the wrapping paper right now.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I'm trying to like get him to stop. Yeah. I guess my favorite thing. I mean, I've always loved writing, and I, I've always written just in a way it was the acceptable way of continuing to play with my dolls when I was too old to play with dolls anymore, or and all that. But I mean, I mean, every morning it's kind of weird waking up. It's like I have a published book right now and everything, and I think I will really enjoy once live events are possible.
Hmm.
Um, being able to do those live events and interacting with people and talking with them. But it's like a weird mix of things for me
Yeah.
where, sorry, he's still underneath my chair. Okay. Because like if you talk to me like not in this setting, if I was just kind of like with my friends or whatever, I don't like talking about being an author. It's like very much like different hats, I guess. Like in an
Yeah.
author setting, I can talk about it. So I feel like at these live events, I'd be able to talk about it. But put me with a bunch of friends or just peers or whatever, like I don't think I'd talk about it. Like I don't even think I've mentioned it much to any of my coworkers in my office because I haven't been at the office to start with. And even if
Right.
I was there, I think I'd kind of just be like, yeah, that happened. But so, but it is. I do enjoy hearing the positive feedback or having. I had a friend text me, "Why did you end the book that way? Why can't I have the next book tomorrow?" So it's that good feedback is always great.
Oh yeah. Now, what are some of your best advice to teens looking to become authors?
Mhm. Don't rush it. I think I tried doing that when I was a teenager as well. And basically what happened was I got knocked down quite a few pegs because basically what happened was I was really happy with what I wrote in high school because, I wrote book-length things in high school. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then I got to college. And in college, I decided to join a writing group. And I decided to submit for them to read my initial prologue to the story, which was based off of the short story I wrote when I was 13. And it hadn't changed that much. I mean, I've edited it, so it's probably sounded better. But it's not, and it basically knocked me down. Because they were like, yeah, it's like a 13-year-old wrote it. Or, yeah, so it's like, be willing to take feedback, obviously. And it wasn't as cruel as what I just said right there. They were actually very helpful. So be willing to take feedback, but also slow down. You don't have to force a book out right away. You have a long time, and most people will like your story. Just don't try and publish every little time you think you put out. Otherwise, you might also get very negative feedback from people who are mean. There's mean people on the internet. I remember someone on one of my blogs I had a while ago. They attacked, it was when I was trying to figure out what to do with my writing exactly. They attacked the writer, because what I would do is I would post funny writing memes or something like that. I don't even remember the full thing. But, it was a blog. But I linked to my writing, and they were like, why do you think you have the right to post these memes? Your writing isn't that good. And it's just like,
Oh,
so
wow.
there are mean people out there. So just be aware of that. Don't rush. And also be willing to take valid criticism. People who are actually helpful and everything. And I think that goes for any author. It's like, if you receive a review on a book that just basically says, this book is trash, that's not a valid review, just ignore it. But if you receive a review that has a valid critique, pay attention. Don't say anything, just pay attention and see where it goes from there. And I guess, and it's hard to take critique, but you gotta learn how to do it.
Oh yeah, I think in a career such as an author's, your entire life after you publish will be critiqued, no matter if you ask for it or not, because reviews are a thing. And like you said, be able to take it, but also to ignore it if you have to.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the story is yours. The book, you wrote the book, you did. Writing a book is a big deal as a whole, I'd say. So don't discount yourself or discredit yourself for being
and when you're around authors all the time, it might not, especially in the Instagram author community, Twitter author community, wherever, it might not feel like a big deal because everyone's doing it. But if you go out and tell someone, I just wrote a book, they're going to be like, what? You just wrote a book? Where did I get this book? That's so cool. And just kind of remember that in your head it might not feel big, but it is big to a lot of people.
Yeah. Now, I would love to ask if you might give us a little sneak peek of The Mistkeeper's Apprentice, maybe like the first couple pages, if you'd like.
Yeah, I can do that.
And then while you're doing that, I'd like to ask if anybody in the live audience has any other additional questions. Feel free to throw them in the comment section while we're getting a little sneak peek here.
Yeah. Well, to start with, if you actually get a physical copy of the book, you get a very nice, it has a full thing. You have the one in black and white on the side and this on the other. And inside you'll see this in the digital copy as well. This is the map in the book, which people don't quite understand at first.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't understand that right away either.
Yeah, because it's basically the tunnel system that gets mentioned.
Oh, okay, cool.
And it makes more, everyone has said it makes more sense as you're reading it to do it. So I guess I'll read, let me see where the good stopping point is, just so I can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'll read the first 3 pages. I think that's a good point there. Okay. All right. Brent ducked into the alleyway, leading an entourage of children away from the market to a makeshift stage. He hopped up on the boxes and peered over his audience's head, waiting for the guard to turn away. Once the path cleared, Brent ushered the children closer, bending his knees to reach their level. You ready for a story? 'Cause I got a good one, he grinned. His audience rapped and continued. This story is about someone you all know, Madame Gonzo. Madame Gonzo, one child proclaimed. She's the nice old lady who runs the market square. She gave me a lemon cake yesterday, another added. That's right, but did you hear she had a granddaughter? There's a story, a rumor. I mean, that Madame Gonzo's granddaughter was born with a flower blossoming on her head. Brent focused as the children's faces lit up. Have you heard? I imagine not. Old Madame Gonzo once had a granddaughter. And, well, a beautiful white flower crooned towards the sky at her birth. Her mother, the pernicious witch Angelina, never named the child, but old Madame Gonzo called her Rodana, like the song you sing in school. The story goes on a sad, sad note that the evil witch Angelina killed her daughter, but I believe Rodana is alive. Wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be? Mr. Harley! Brent shot up. Captain Carver. The captain grabbed a fistful of Brent's curls and dragged him back into the market. What have I told you, boy? No stories, Brent muttered. I'm sorry. Under Statute 1910-20B, storytelling by the general populace is prohibited on counts of hearsay, rumors, malice, and destruction. Brent winced as Captain Carver dug deeper into his hair. All those over the age of 21 will be sent to Newbird's pit. And how old are you, Mr. Harley? I turned 21 after yours birth. Then think about where you want to end up. The captain tossed him onto the pavement before marching towards the cadets on the far side of the square. Brent clutched the ground, digging his fingers into the dirt between each of the cobblestones while clenching his eyes shut. He cursed once, pleading that no one watched. Of course they did. How could they not? How many times had he been tossed to the side after another story? He wasn't even 21 yet, so why did it matter? Because of your stamp. As he sat up, Brent rolled up his sleeve of one of his coat. Brent rolled up the sleeve of his coat past where a leather bracelet lamped around his wrist. Beneath it sat two black triangles connected like an hourglass upon his wrist. He ran his fingers over it, tracing up to the back of his hands where another stenciled image of a single triangle, like a shadow of the stamp on his wrist, rested beneath his knuckles. No one ever noticed this one, not like the black stamp on his wrist, but its mere presence wore heavily on his heart. With it, he lost his ability to love, assigned to another for an empty marriage. His attention drifted to the wooden fence on the eastern side of the market, blockading Newbird's pit, the domicile shanty town harboring all those subjected to vagrancy. It extended down the road to where the senator's garden stood as the precious gem of Newbird's arm, and up past the square towards the stairs of the Temple of the Effluvia. As the watchful eye of the order, the temple gazed upon the town with its ruby-embezzled year glass, counting down the final moments to the new year. Probably 2 days, when the sun hits the pinnacle in the sky and the effluvium is the highest, there we will sing in a king. Shite, stop thinking up stories, it's not good for you. Brent rose, coming face to face with the lovely Gemma Reds, her hair the color of her name, and brown eyes as scornful as her scowl. Gem, Brent gulped. Hi, sorry, I mean the children want a story and I was. What am I going to do with you, Brenton? That's sad.
I like that. And I think it gives us a good idea of your town and the layout of the land, but also the eagerness of Brent to tell stories to anyone who will listen, essentially.
Yeah.
It looks like we got an additional comment here. Dan is asking, would you ever consider writing poetry?
Well, poetry is actually probably where a lot of my writing started, to be honest. I used to write poetry a lot when I was younger, and you'll see in parts of the book, there is poetry in here. Like, there's the prayers, some of the prayers that they say, and certain scenes are even written almost in a poetic essence. For instance, there's a part where Brent is getting kind of confused about something. I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah.
But he starts getting confused with something, and the way it kind of reads out is it's almost like a poem, the way it gets read out. And I like incorporating that because I do enjoy writing poetry, even if it's not a major thing that I do.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. It's neat to see how some authors decide to do what they do like that, with poetry especially, and implementing it into a novel, because you don't really see that sort of use very often.
Yeah, and I mean, some people have told me they skimmed over those parts, but if you actually sit down and read it, I do leave layers of like hints of what's going to happen in there and everything, but it's up to the reader whether or not they choose to read it or just kind of skim through it.
Yeah, and on that, I can never. I'm one of those people. I can't skim. If I feel like I'm losing an important part if I ever skim a book.
Yeah, I'm a very fast reader, so I do skim a lot, but I'm kind of, I guess, I'm trained to do that at this point. But I know some people, they really do want to read every single word, so it's interesting to see.
Oh yeah. And then before we do our giveaway,
Yeah.
is there anything else you'd like to leave us with tonight?
No, I mean, well,
Where
I
can we
mean,
find your book?
oh yeah, well, you can find it basically, Amazon, Barnes& Noble, Walmart, I think does it as well. It's all over the place. If you want the ebook, I'm running a sale through the end of the year for 99 cents. The listing price is $3.99, so you save yourself about $3. You can also, I have through my website, which is esbarrison-author.com, you can go directly to my shop. I do have some hardbacks on discount because it has the old scene in it that I ended up replacing. So instead
Okay.
of paying $19.95 for the hardback, you can get it for $15.95. So it's not a huge discount, but it's enough where if you're interested, we can do that. You can do that as well.
Yeah. And I have one more question for you. I wonder, I've seen it on your Instagram, and I just wonder, are you gonna have any available merch in the future for your book?
Yes, I already do. I have a T Public store where you can get, for instance, I actually have right here, which I was going to put on and never did. It has it's a sweatshirt, so
Very
you can get
cool.
that from T Public. I am going to be including in my personal shop. I have magnets, pins, and bookmarks as well. And um, if you order from my shop and if you want to get a copy, you will get some of the merch for free anyway with it. So it's,
Very cool. And great. I think with that, I'm gonna do a little wrap up here, and then we'll get into the giveaway. So I just want to remind everybody, this was day 8 of 12 of the 12 Days of Delivery Company, my 12-day launch event for my upcoming debut novel, The Delivery Company, which is available for pre-order right now on Amazon, Barnes& Noble, Kobo, Apple Books, anywhere you want it, you can get it.
and it's
The
very
paper
good. I read it. So.
and the paperback is $14.99. The ebook is $4.99, which goes up to $6.99 after release. So save a couple dollars there. And yeah, so with that, I'm going to announce our winner. Just make sure they are still in because they have to be present to win. And they are. Congratulations to Liv Gracely. So you have won a ebook copy of The Mist Keeper's Apprentice. So after this live is over, just send me a message and we'll get your information over to E.S. Barrison. So without further ado, Elena, thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
tonight.
thank you for having me.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.